Hey you guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. I am Funky Like Feathers, and tonight we're going to be getting in some writing sprints. I'm eating cookie dough because my kid made cookie dough. So we're going to try to get some writing sprints in tonight. We are past the halfway mark for Nano. So if you are not yet halfway, if you still have a ton of stuff to work on, you're not alone, right? Nano is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So do not give yourself a hard time. We're going to be working on getting our projects done tonight. It's really that simple. My kid was in a class earlier and she wrote this segment of a story. And I'm going to be working on editing that tonight because, oh goodness, when your mom is a freelance editor, it's just something she's going to start doing when she gets your work, just by default, right? So I'm going to be working on that tonight because why not, right? Make sure that you've got your drink. Let's stay hydrated, right? I've got this tea that I've been drinking. I don't know. There's like 5 things in it. It's fine. We'll be okay. All right. So my timer is in my other bags. I will be using my phone to set a timer, which also means it's going to scare the bejesus out of me when it goes off, you guys. It's going to be terrifying, but it'll be fine. All right. So we're going to start off nice and early today. I've got 15 minutes on the clock, and we're going to go ahead and start. So get your projects out, get set up, get ready. We're going to do 15-minute sprint to get some words in. Ooh, if you did not have a prompt, there was one earlier today on TikTok, right? So I've been posting those every day so that if you need writing prompts, you can get them there. I also went ahead and posted on my YouTube channel, so it's there as well. You can see a bunch of random prompts in case you need something to write about, in case the world that you're living in and all the story ideas that you have are not enough. I got you. All right. So let's get 15 minutes on the clock. Get your projects ready. Hey, you guys. Yes, I am thinking very diligently. We're in the middle of a sprint. Put that banner up for you. There you go. All right. There's our first timer. So if you guys, welcome you guys. Hello. Cookie shaped. Oh, it's beautiful. My offspring made cookies and it's hard. It's beautiful. Good job.
Yeah. Am I allowed to be on the screen or is it not?
That is up to you, dear. This is a heart-shaped cookie. Do I get to eat this cookie? Do I get to eat it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, sweet. All right. So let's see. Rubino, why so serious? Ray, serious concentrating phase. Hello, Alice. Yes, that was my offspring. Running in the corner. She has made me cookies per my request because I seriously had a hankering for cookies.
She kept asking me for cookies times. It was crazy.
I did. I kept asking for cookies. Like, y'all, when I have these things for cookies, like I have to have a cookie.
She was like on her knees, like, please
not.
make me cookies. Please.
All right, you calm down. No, I was not.
Yes,
Good
you
Lord,
were.
I have a dramatic
Yes,
child.
you are.
So Alice, you're researching eels this evening. Anything's better than the child death scene. Okay. Anything is better than that, I have to say. So I mean, that was rough, man. That was bad. So yes, the face that you walked in on or popped in on, that is my editing face and trying to read my child's writing. Because hello, nerdy nurse. I love it. Have you heard of Book Nerd University? Like, I'm all for the nerd category. Absolutely. Yeah, Book Nerd University is my online book club, and I'm so excited about it. And this month we are reading For the Wolf, and it's going really well. And so I'm so excited. And I already picked out next month's, but I'm going to do a poll to see what everybody wants to read for January. But I digress. So yeah, it's hilarious. That face that you're seeing is me trying to read what my kid wrote. So my kid is in some online classes. That was my editing face, in case you're ever wondering why editors have like all these weird wrinkles on their faces and everything. That's why we're trying to understand what on earth was written there and what it's supposed to say. Because goodness, y'all, my kid is an amazing, intelligent human being. But what I just read on this thing, I'm going to paint a picture for you. She has a character riding a motorcycle, and because she says that motorcycles are big, tough guys, and her father rides a motorcycle. So it makes me laugh because I know the man is a big old cupcake. He's just super soft and sweet. But she still sees motorcycle guys as like big tough dudes. And so this guy in her story is riding a motorcycle, and he has a pet duck named Clarice, who rides the motorcycle with him. See what I mean? Unexpected. Definitely unexpected. This is why I always come back to the whole thing that, like, if you write it, it's worth writing, right? If they can make movies about sharknadoes and snakes on a plane, you can make a book about a guy who rides a motorcycle with his pet duck. Why not? Right? Why not? I mean, who am I to say no to that? And that's one of the big things I think that is interesting when it comes to writers. Everybody's constantly thinking that there's some kind of limit to like what it is you're allowed to write. And like everybody's like, but I don't know if that would work. And but can I write that? Dude, if you can write the words, if you can make it fit and work, who are we to say that it's not okay? I mean, come on. I've read some really weird stuff, right? If you ever read this series right here, the Unwind series, they literally part out children. Kids between the ages of 13 and 18 can be parted out. Do you get what I'm saying? Like if somebody needs a heart and you have a kid who's a little troublemaker, they just disassemble the child and then donate the heart. And did I read that with a group of teenagers? Yes, I did. No. And then, okay, so My Plain Jane, this one right here, that one is Jane Eyre made over as a ghost story with dead people and ghosts, and she's part of a ghost hunting society, because why not? Right? I mean, y'all, this is one of the things to remember. Books are amazing. You guys can come up with any idea, and I'm like, absolutely, let's make it happen. So, like, Alice, I have to know, are the eels in relation to the death of the kid in the last project, or is this a totally different project? Inquiring minds want to know because this is interesting. And, like, this is why we also say, like, when I die, clear my browsing history, right? Because there's no telling the things that we have researched to go into these projects, right? Like, we look up some weird stuff. If you had to decide what the weirdest thing was that you've ever researched for a book, like, what would you think it was? Oh, no.
Okay, so one time I was writing a story for one of my horror books, and I asked Google for axe injury on body and bruising, and I looked at the sound effects for the axe hitting the body in like a.
You need to know. You need to know.
And
you know, if you ever watch CSI, you would probably already know that because they do the experiments
I haven't watched
to
it.
get that. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm glad that that's a different project, Alice. Very, very glad. What
was it?
Okay, so she had a project the other day where it was where it was the death of a child, and so she was trying to edit this scene. So it was like a very sad, very somber kind of scene, a kid dying, funeral kind of situation. Whereas now tonight she's working on researching eels. I mean, but see, that's the thing though, is when you're researching eels, it could be the same project.
Okay, here's the thing about having ADHD. You'll have like this thing and you'll hyper-focus on it, and then for an entire day, you'll research about freaking rocks.
It's called a rabbit hole, okay? And so that's one of the big things to consider too, is that, and because people talk about, you know, plot bunnies all the time, right? And so when we talk about plot bunnies, it's because these ideas multiply like rabbits, right? And that's okay because we need those plot ideas. Otherwise, we would be stuck in little holes all the time, right? I mean, why not? But when we start doing some research for things, it is very interesting just how far we can go. Yes, it is hyperfixation. But that again is what's so funny. Like, why could it not be the death of a child in the book and some eel situation? What if their class was still signed up to go to an aquarium and the mom was signed up as a chaperone, and she had a twin that was still in the class, and so they had to go and she chaperoned while they were there talking about eels? Why not? Right? This is why I do the whole like random writing prompt every day, because you just never know what you could fit into your book. Why not? Right? That was my oldest favorite because it showed how everything worked. Yes. Right? Absolutely. Google it. Just CSI it. Make yourself see things from different perspectives. Now, I even did this the other day, and actually, this is what I'm going to write my Patreon post about on Friday, or at least what I'm thinking about. Is that like, if you know, sometimes you see those things on Facebook, it's like, oh, take a picture of whatever your phone is aimed at right now. And a lot of times it's not anything interesting, right? However, if you change the perspective on something, something can go from not interesting at all to like totally interesting just by changing a slight perspective of something, right? So like this past weekend, I took a picture of a cup of coffee. Shocking, I know. Stay calm. But I took a picture of a cup of coffee, like kind of from the top. And I mean, it's just a cup of coffee on like this plain table. But if you take that same cup of coffee and take my phone and put it in a different position, all of a sudden you see all this stuff in the background that you never get to see otherwise, right? Like nobody would even know that's in the background. That's what we do with books. That's what we do with different scenes. And that's why it's constantly important to like bring in other information. And this is why I always bring up like the sense of smell, because if you are changing from scene to scene, like, yes, there's a smell that changes. And some people are going to connect with the smell. Some people are going to connect with a sound, background sound. It's a totally different perspective, and it adds layers and dimension to that idea. If you're just, you know, bird's eye view on a cup of coffee, like how many cups of coffee do you think you could actually tell the difference between other than like the latte art, right? I mean, like if it's just a blank table, it's just a blank table that you're looking at. Whereas if you change the perspective and like look at it at a totally different angle, everything is so much more dynamic and there's so much more to see, right? Now, if you've ever seen Anger Management, show of hands, who has seen Anger Management with Adam Sandler and Jack Nicholson? Amazingly hilarious movie. But one of the things that they discuss is in the morning, I think, no, it's in the evening because I think it's alphabet soup or something. Jack Nicholson's character is eating cereal. That's what it is. And the cereal is shaped as letters. And so he's organizing these letters in the milk. If you know where this is going, just hang on tight. It's very like, oh, life lesson. But he's organizing the letters in the milk, and Adam Sandler's character is being like, oh, you know, what's going on? He's like, there's a phrase that I need you to hear. Everywhere you look, there is something to be seen. And that's what it comes down to. Yes, I'm pretty. Oh, so pretty. Right? But everywhere you look, there's something to be seen. And that's important. And so when you're in your book, you also want to be explaining the scene and setting that scene for your characters as well as your readers. Now, that does not mean that you need to become like Stephen King and write about every single object that is in a room, including its texture, what material it's made out of, what color it is. We don't care. But you do need to build up some dimension in what's going on. And always make sure that your characters are interacting with that scenery. As long as they interact with it, it is fine. And you can play with the timing of a scene and the pacing if you play with how much detail you give in that scenery as you build it. It's very cool, right? And there's actually a really good example of that in the book Gallant by V.E. Schwab. She really plays well with pacing and timing because, and this is even with a character who is mute. So the main character is mute, which is really interesting, but you lack nothing when it comes to the experience and the tone and just the dimension. And like, it's a delicious book to read. It really is just delectable. Because there's so much built up and the grittiness and all of it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And like I said, the main character can't even talk. So like literally no words. But it's really interesting to see how she builds all this dimension and all the different scenes. It's very, very cool. It's awesome. If you have examples of that too, like let me know because I'm always looking for other stuff to read, right? Shocking. Can't tell by what's behind me. I read a little bit. Just a little bit. Nothing too crazy. So let's y'all, this project. I have someone who shouts, "Holy shoot," in the scene that my kid wrote, because that's what a kid is going to write. So let's get into our projects. I know, Ray, the descriptions in that book are chef's kiss. They really are. Like, if you have not read Gallant by V.E. Schwab, I strongly encourage you to do so. It's an amazing story. So let's get another 15 minutes on the clock so that we can get another sprint in. All right. So like I said, I have my phone here. I'm going to set the timer on here. Ready? Let me get the banner up for you guys so like it's obvious so you're not getting here going, what is wrong with her face? 15 minutes. Ready? Go. Counting. this. I almost made it to the end of that. Oh, man. Okay. This is interesting. This is interesting. How did everybody do? How's the word count? Did you make sure to update your word count for today? Let's see. Make sure you update your word counts, because otherwise you could miss a day, and that's a digital badge that you're going to miss out on. How are you guys doing on your digital badges? Is everybody earning all the badges? Are we all excited about them? Is there any that you're wanting to earn that you have not earned and are hoping to earn? That's also a question. 465. Nicely done, Ray. Why is it that these digital badges just like rule our lives? I do not understand. And I wish that I can't tell exactly what they stand for. I don't know. And then there's also the personal achievement badges, where like you can select the badges that just kind of apply to you, which I think is cool too. But then it's kind of difficult because there's one that's like for pantsing, and then there's another one that's for plotting. I think there's one for planters too. But I'm like, oh man. Oh, Caitlin, I hope you have fun with the littles tonight. Thanks so much for stopping by earlier and seeing us at coffee. Partial sprint in before your kids got out of the bath. Woo! That's amazing. Like, as a parent, that is commendable, madam. That is awesome. Yeah, anybody who doesn't have to like try to juggle parenting and other projects, like, you have no idea. So nicely done, Caitlin. Oh no, Ray, I should get multiple for making myself cry. Is it because of a character that you're crying, or is it because of Nano in general? I mean, like, no judgment either way, but like, it can be very difficult. Oh, Starry Night. I'd like to write 7 days in a row, but it hasn't happened yet. Y'all, it is difficult. Good night, Caitlin. I hope your kids go down really well. Say hi to Mikey. Give him a crisp high five from me. Yeah, writing 7 days in a row is not as easy as most people put out for that, especially if you're trying to keep up that 1,667 words per day kind of thing. Like, it's one thing if you're just kind of, making a little bit of a tweak here or there. It's another thing when you're trying to get all of the words every single day. And there is actually a badge for that, I believe. There's one where it's like you met the minimum every day, right? And I don't even get that. Like, I took last weekend almost completely off. I only wrote like 1 or 2 sentences each day just so that I had something to update, but I did not sit down and like write a big chunk, right? I try to kind of stay ahead of my daily counts during the day. So like, if I look at my graph and everything. Now, if you don't know how to find the graph, let's explain this too. If you don't know how to find the graph, you're going to go to your Nano page with like your profile and everything, and you're going to see where on your project, you can have like that little book, where you can put the cover, and it has the title of your project, and then it'll say NaNoWriMo 2022, write 50,000 words. You're going to click that, and then the next page it takes it to you. You're going to see your project, and then under that, it's going to say NaNoWriMo 2022. If you click on that, now you have your bar graphs and everything. And you've got your scatter plots and all that jazz. So that's where you can find it. And so like my graph is just a little bit above where it's supposed to be, but in the weekend, it's like, boop. And then during the week, I try to kind of get it again, and then I'll go, boop. Because, I mean, on the weekends, it's just more difficult that time, right? Now, this is why I made a video specifically about like my top 10 tips when it comes to winning NaNoWriMo. This is my 5th year doing Nano. I think I've won all but 1 year. And so, I mean, it's stuff like that where you can try to front load as much as possible, or, I mean, especially doing live write-ins and doing sprints, like, these are the ways to kind of really get your word counts boosted up, because otherwise just trying to do it by yourself sucks like bad, big time. Oh, have fun, Ray. Say hi to James for us. Tell him I hope he had a good day. Yeah, it's very difficult to like get in the groove of writing if you don't already have it as part of your schedule. So that's why, especially for Nano, I think one of the biggest goals is just trying to make writing a part of your new normal for the month. And that's one of the big things too, is just kind of creating this new habit of writing, because who else doesn't really write much during the year? I'm an editor. It's what I do. So I usually focus on helping other people with their projects as opposed to writing in my own projects. Bad funky, I know, but at the same time, that's often what happens, especially because if that's my job, like it's difficult, right? So, and there's a lot that goes into writing. There's also a lot that goes into editing, but I would rather help somebody else get their project out than spend time working on my own. So when November hits, that's kind of when I focus on my own project and go, okay, I kind of need to work on this, right? And it's nice because it gets so much done at one time. Now, has anyone attempted a 10K in a day? What's the most that you've ever written in one day? Because I think that's a big thing to consider too. The most that you've ever been able to crank out in one day. And then consider what helped you reach those goals. Like what helped you get that many words in one day? Because, like, honestly, oftentimes it's those short little sprints because your brain can only function so much. And then my fingers get all swollen and hurt because I'm a key slapper, right? So it can be very, very taxing to get that many words done. OM goodness. Rubina, I did 16K in 2 days 2 years ago. And how difficult was that? And like, were you brain dead the next day? I mean, like, it's like, that's part of it too, is that you're not just typing random words, like you're actually coming up with the story and trying to possibly follow your own codex, your own plan as far as your story goes. So there's a lot that happens. It's mentally exhausting, right? I mean, like, it's not just, oh, I'm just going to write this many every single day. And like writing 2K a day is usually pretty manageable for me, right? Like that's a pretty, and plus it's a nicer number than 1,667. I just can't. So just can't. So well-rounded number, about 2,000. Like, and I know that that's kind of a nice, that's me getting writing in for the day, right? It's not as easy if you're trying to crank out a ton, right? So Ruby and I had to go to the office, so no brain cells were needed. It can be very taxing, right? Stay hydrated, y'all. Yeah, it's just, man, I remember the first time I did a 10K in the day. Afterwards, I just kind of sat there. I was like zoned out for the whole next day because my brain was fried, right? Especially because I didn't even have a plan going into that. It ended up being like some kind of fantasy mystery kind of thing where like somebody dies and then there's a portal and they go through. It's weird and like you have to figure it out. It's one of those psychological kinds of things, which was really cool. I was excited how it turned out, but at the same time, I was like, I don't think I will ever be able to replicate what just happened. Like, it was a magical day, right? The other 10Ks were not as simple and they're more complex, and trying to follow plans, it doesn't go as fast, right? Because just because you can type quickly doesn't necessarily mean that you know what on earth you want to type. It's not as easy coming up with all that. So this is part of the reason that we say, try to prep as much in Preptober, a month ago. But if you didn't do that and you're here now and you're trying to get stuff done, let the fun begin, y'all, because it's not simple, right? So yes, this is not the easiest thing to do, but you guys are doing it. You guys are doing it. Do you guys realize how many words you've written since the beginning of November? And how many you would have written if it wasn't November? That's why I outline to the max. I'm the same way. Like, I have an entire binder of a codex, and like I chart out all of this, character profiles. I've got scene cards, like everything is good to go. And it also makes it easier to keep my characters on track because I know where we're going, right? And they're less likely to go totally off. And it's so interesting though when people are like, oh yeah, my characters just like decided to take a left turn. And I was like, get them back. Like, you should have everything right. But of course, that's how my brain works. And of course, and again, that's part of it too. Everybody's head works in a different way. So you've got to find out what works well for how your brain functions, like how you're going to understand where your characters are going to go and to keep them on track, because they can get out of hand. And I think people are more likely to get their characters out of hand when either they don't know them very well, or if they think that they know them really, really well. Because I think there's two sides of that coin, right? If you don't know your characters very well, then you're not going to know exactly how they're going to react in a certain situation that they may find themselves in if you don't stick to the plan. However, if you know too much about your characters, you're going to overanalyze it and come up with some reason that they would make this new decision. Whereas if you just kind of stay in the middle, you're more likely to keep them reined in. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But like, that's just how I consider it, right? Like, I always kind of know my characters just well enough where they don't veer off too far, because I can kind of keep them reined in, right? But it can be very difficult either way. Some people hate planning beforehand. That doesn't make sense to me. How do you people not plan? I'm sitting here with multiple planners on my desk. Like, how do you people not plan? That doesn't compute in my head. Starry, so far, whenever I outline for Nano, brain freeze on day one and then pants it all the way. Hey, that's the thing though, is I'm like, I get it, because like you can get too wrapped up in the planning to the point where like when you sit down to write, you're like, I already wrote as much as possible. Let's do this other thing. And all of a sudden your head's in this other zone. I get it. I totally do. It's the weirdest thing. And it's fun to hear about people's experiences trying to get this done, because to me, it's really interesting that people don't plan like that. I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Right. And I felt really lost the one year I sat down with my codex to start writing. And suddenly I realized that there was like a major character I needed, and I hadn't charted her out yet and hadn't fit her into all of the scene cards and the plot embryo and everything. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to redo all of this. Right. And it was like, or do I just start writing it and just like let it evolve with her as a part of this? Right. It was a really crazy situation and I felt totally lost. But that's, of course, like, if you're the kind of person like me, like type A, where suddenly like everything has to be done correctly and then you get thrown for a loop. Oh, that can cause like some serious anxiety. Yeah. Like serious anxiety. Right. So again, it's just figure out what works for your head and try to improve upon whatever it was that you didn't do as well last time. Try to see what you could do to like change it and get more on point for the next year. Right. Because again, like, one of my biggest points is knowing more about yourself, like knowing how you write, knowing yourself as a writer, learning these things so that you can better prepare yourself for the next year, right? And like, I'm 5 years in. At this point, I'm like, just don't lose your mess, keep your cool, like plan it all out beforehand and then just roll. Keep it as calm as possible, because Nano is insane. Yeah, like that's just where my head goes at that point. So it has been a lot of fun. Now so tonight we have this live write-in, and then again on Monday. So we have live write-ins Mondays and Wednesdays during November. If you are local to my area, we have in-person meetings for the other 3 days of the week. And then actually this Saturday, I have a writing meetup at a local bookstore as well for like writers all over to come hang out. So that's going to be exciting. For December, try to let your project sit. Do not jump directly into rereading. Don't do it. Do not do it. Let your project sit for a month and then come back to it in like January with fresh eyes, right? Because then it kind of let the dust settle for a little bit, and then you can kind of come back in a little bit more fresh, because y'all, Nano can throw you for a loop. I hope you guys are having a great NaNoWriMo. Don't forget that I'm all over the place as far as Nano is concerned. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. I'm on Facebook, the whole ordeal. I'm posting daily word prompts. So if you haven't gotten the writing prompts that I'm posting on TikTok and stuff, make sure you're following me over there so you can see all the crazy stuff that gets put out there. And I will see y'all again on Monday for another batch of writing sprints so we can get more words on the page. I hope you guys are having a great NaNoWriMo, and I'll see y'all again soon. Bye, you guys.